There we go. We're live, kids. Uh-oh. Autofocus going wiggy. Welcome to the pre-flash show. And you can see down there in Caleb Pike's place is the one, the only, the great Erik Naso. And of course, Ben is hanging out with some tulips in the kitchen. He's got, I don't know what, I think maybe that's like a Lumi light or something, giving it a little bit of something. We're going to have to find out more about that. Erik has some goodies that he's going to show us later on. Not those types of goodies, kids. And we have a lot to talk about. And, oh, there it is. It's like a flyby. It's like Santa Claus.
Such a tease.
So we're here, and this is going to be a little bit different this week. The first thing is I just want to make sure that Erik is okay technically. Erik, are you okay with your windows and everything? You've got everything muted. It sounds fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I got the Facebook. Facebook. I got the YouTube channel muted and down to a low res, so we all look super fuzzy. And over there, I can see the live stream of Top Chat. So. Let's talk, everybody. This is not just us blabbing, but conversing with the globe, as we like to call it, right?
Exactly. And we've got some people to say hi to. We've got Harrison here, Guillermo, a.k.a. Memo Montesinos, Masterstroke Media. We've got the infamous, and he is the infamous 360 grad.
Although he's promised to behave, and he's greeted me in Czech this evening, which is nice.
Interesting. We've got
and Dan.
Who else do we have? Chris.
We got
Dan. Yeah.
Part-time
Films is here. Everybody relax. He's here. Part-time Films, and of course Bill is here as well, who was hanging out on the live stream this morning for Gearbox. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So here we go. What's up, Dan? All right. Good. So we're getting this started up here. We're going to get going in about a minute or so. Guillermo, you are here. You've missed a couple, I think. What episode is this, Ben, that we're up to now? I didn't even know I asked you. Yeah.
30. It's got to be 30.
I'm glad that Shiznuts has just now owned it and just accepts the fact that Shiznuts is Shiznuts. And we don't need any of this extra stuff, okay? It's just...
It was getting confusing, yeah.
It was totally getting there. Hey, dudes, what's up with the Rode Wireless Go? Well, I think that it basically transported Caleb to some other universe because he's not here this week. He did that 16-minute review, and I think he's actually been flown down to Australia to hang out with Rode again or something.
Yeah, he's making peace.
He's making peace.
He's groveling on hands and knees. That's what he is.
That's right.
He's knocking on the door in Australia.
Yeah. Oh my God. Unbelievable.
It was a great review. Yes.
It was.
Just watching it this afternoon, and I'm gonna get one.
Yeah, it's
it looks pretty good. I mean, how small it is.
Have you played?
Yeah.
Eric, did you do the review, or who did it for Newsshooter?
No, Matt did it. I do have one, and I haven't really used it yet, but it's it looks pretty interesting. Like every kind of device that does wireless, I always tend to want to use my mics. It's just I'm just kind of attached to the Sanken COS 11 and Countryman. Some Sennheiser lavs are pretty great. I personally, I don't really like the Rode lav very well. I mean, it's just a little thin for me, a little hollow. So, I don't think I can use my COS 11 because it requires phantom power, and I don't believe that little device does that.
Actually, Caleb was doing some tests, and he actually was plugging mics in there that didn't have a battery in them, and he was getting audio. A couple of RF issues too, but I think we're going to have to find out more about that. That said, gentlemen, I have to do an official start to our episode, and then we can get back into talking about all of this GAC and gear and kit. like we do. Welcome everybody to episode, let me figure out. Technically, I think it's episode 26, though Ben will always disagree with me on that. And and here we are with another episode of Cameron Flask. If you are new to the channel, because you're coming over to see our specialist co-host of the week, welcome to the C47 channel. If you have not done so yet, please subscribe and become part of this conversation that happens every week. Maybe we'll turn this into a podcast one day. Been thinking about that. It might actually happen. There's been more than one request for that. And we, without further ado, are going to do our introductions and get into this conversation. And I will start actually by going to the middle, to everybody's favorite traveling oil man with a bag of dongles. It is Mr. Please introduce yourself.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you. Bag of dongles on an oil rig.
Right. I'm at home in my kitchen though today. Yes. So,
where's the dongles?
There's bags and bags of dongles here. It's all over the place.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So good evening, everybody, to episode, what did Jem say, 26? It's got to be 27, 28, something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, in the Czech Republic this week, maybe in Norway next week, because I haven't done enough traveling of late. Yeah, I've only just got over the jet lag from last week, so I'm in slightly brighter form than I was this time last week when I'd been
you were brilliant
traveling.
last week. No, you had great energy when you got back for some reason.
I got second wind. It was weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So what you drinking this week, Mr. Ben Barden?
Are we going through that? Okay, so this week I'm going to go for a red. I'm going to try and not drink all of it. This is a Spanish Navarra 2012 that I bought in Lidl for the equivalent of $3 the other day. So it might be paint stripper.
Okay.
But we will see how that goes.
All right, I'm going to let you open that up, and then I'm going to go over to the one, the only. Introduce yourself, my friend.
Oh, hey guys, it's great to be with you. I'm Erik Naso. I'm with Newsshooter.com. And, unfortunately, where my location at 3:00 Pacific Standard Time is work. So I will not be participating in the best part of this show, which is having an adult beverage with my boys.
I feel so bad for you. I feel so bad for you, Erik.
Oh, it's terrible. But I'm here in spirit, not with spirits. Hey, that's pretty good, huh?
We'll take that.
Donald said that Ben's bottle opener is a Cylon from Battlestar Galactica, which is amazing. So while we're not having you, there you go. Yeah, it is basically a Cylon, but the original series. So I have a question for you, though, Erik, because you are quite the bourbon drinker, whiskey in general. So would you just give us your day in, day out? You're sort of like, sometimes I'll like that during the summertime. And then what's the one that's like the special? Just give us a three.
I'm a Jack Daniels guy. Now, I love it. I've been drinking Jack for many years, and I like it on the rocks, like it with Coke. It's always nice. Mix it. I've been trying Rise lately. Bullet, I believe. Rye is pretty good. And their brand actually is pretty nice. They make a nice bourbon as well. Been getting into doing those mules with bourbon. Yeah. That's nice, man. That's a rough one because you get
hammered
pretty quick with those babies.
I love ginger beer.
Yeah, that's a really
what's a special
fun one.
What's the special, like the Pappy Van, or what is the thing like you're like, I'm gonna treat myself? Is there a bottle of something that you're like, that's gonna be my Christmas, whiskey or something like that?
I don't have one on that list. But I am dabbling more in the scotches. Like when I saw you guys over at NAB in Vegas this year, and Ben, I was talking to Ben at a party, and he was drinking some amazingly smooth and lightly smoky Japanese bourbon or Scotch. I can't remember the name of it. It was fantastic. He gave me a sip. I made the face, and he basically let me, knock off the rest of his glass because there was a little bit left in that bottle, I think, right, Ben?
I remember very little about that night, but that would sound right.
It was a Japanese single malt, and
it's called Kura.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was amazing.
It was so good because I'm used to, you're kind of like your first time out with some of these scotches. I was trying a few here and there, but basically like grocery store scotches, right? Nothing like specialty. And I remember, and I can't even remember the name of the brand, but this scotch was literally so smoky. I thought it was, in a forest fire with a bunch of cigar smokers. It was unbelievable. It was too much. And I'm a barbecue guy, so I'm all about, smoked pork and, all that. But wow, it was too much for me. So I kind of thought that was what it was all about. But ironically, that after tasting that amazing scotch, that kind of makes me think about, I think I might want to have to get some of that, because I like that. That was nice.
We have a couple of recommendations. Next time I see you, we'll have some Kulela, and I think you'll like that. And I don't think you'd be opposed to a Lagavulin 16, to be honest with you, because it does have qualities of smoky and sweet, but without getting into Lefroy land. Do you have like at least something in the glass, like water or something like that? Whoa. Do you have anything to drink?
You know what? I actually, I was going to grab something before we went on, and I didn't get it. But
okay. Do you have anything nearby? Okay. Well, I'm going to quickly, I'll do this quick. It's just sort of the daily, not daily actually, because I don't drink every day. Glenlivet 12. I haven't had it in a while, and I like it. So that's all I got.
Can't go wrong.
Old Faithful. Super expensive, not super cheap. There's something about it. I prefer it over a Glenfiddich any day of the week, personally, and that's all I got. Wow, Chris, you started with Lefroy. God help you. This is a cheers to Erik Naso at an F2 and the AF winging out. Cheers. All right, here we go. Okay, great.
I wish I could.
Hey, Baron, good to have you back. Shiznuts, I don't even know what to say. I guess you're having absinthe, and we'll see what happens in about half an hour. No, you said you would. And part-time films, wine always gave me a stomach ache. I was a vodka man. I do love vodka, and we've got a lot of drinks. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Let's cheers all around.
Cheers all around, boys.
Thailand could get ugly, and let's get into the show and start talking.
$3 wine. Very, very good.
Okay.
It's really good.
Yeah. Well, you get like a Barbera or a Montepulciano, as 360 Grad said, and you can find a good everyday drinking wine.
Yeah. This was just on offer somewhere. It was like in a bin that they were getting rid of the last bottle of or something. It had a sticker on. Yeah.
Perfect. Sailor Jerry's with Coke for me tonight. All right, Dan.
Oh, damn.
Nice to go. All right. So
Jerry's with Coke.
Let's get into this. So I think the first thing that I need to do is I think that most people are familiar with Erik and who Erik is, but they might know that he's part of Newsshooter, but not kind of know what his background is in terms of his career, and not necessarily going back to the day one, but he has a big career in broadcast. And I'm going to throw it over to you, Erik, to tell us a little bit about that and how you got into it.
Cool, man. Well, thanks. First off, again, thanks for having me. I love the show, and you guys are extra cool people in our world. And
you're our awesome friend, Erik. So it's good to hang out with you. Long overdue.
Yeah, totally, bro. So a little bit about Erik. Well, I started off in news many years ago, and I'm not going to date myself too bad, but I will tell you that I shot on 3/4 inch with a camera and a deck. That's how far back I go. I did that for about a little less than half my career. Photojournalism is, to me, one one of the best gifts you can give yourself, because you learn how to get the job done now. You have to shoot fast. You have to think fast. You have to think about transitions in camera, because you can't stage anything, and so you have to think on your feet and anticipate everything. Now, I'm in production now. I shoot promos for NBC7 in San Diego. I've been here for about 20 years. It'll be my 20-year anniversary coming up, which is unbelievable.
Wow.
But it's a great place. I love it here. They're going to have to drag me out from the back of my shirt to get rid of me. It's a wonderful city, and I really love my job. And in between the two, the way I went from photojournalism to being a DP was I started shooting long format investigative pieces while I was in Phoenix, and then I went to DC. So I've been around in the markets. And in DC, I was exclusively on a investigative unit, consumer investigative unit. And we did a lot of creative B-roll, a lot of lights, cool cameras. I was always playing with like lipstick cameras. Remember those before we had GoPros and small cameras? Totally. And just trying to shoot interesting B-roll. And that's where the lighting thing kind of kicked in. All my stand-ups had to be more interesting, and I had more time to do them, and I had time to think about it. Boy, that was like that was the pinnacle for me. I was like, oh man, this is what it's all about. And when I came here to San Diego, I actually came here to start an investigative unit, and I've always wanted to live here. I'm a Southern California kid, so the East Coast was great experience, but coming back to California and basically heading a new investigative unit was kind of exciting to me. You're building something from the ground up. I did that for about a year and a half, and then they decided they didn't want to do that anymore. They disbanded the whole investigative unit. So I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I didn't want to leave San Diego. Within about 6 months of that, the guy that I had that had this job started his own company. When that happened, I was like, all right, that's it. I'm going to try to get that job. And I went right to the boss and I told her, look, this is like the dream job for me. Like, I want to shoot promos and commercials. That's what I really want to do. And I'd love to be a part of that team. Well, eventually that happened, and that's what I've been doing ever since. So I love it. I love being able to play with all the toys. And that's kind of what production's all about. It's almost like making little 15 and 30-second narrative movies. You get all the tools out, you use them all the same. You just don't have a whole lot of time to present your finished product. But it's been great. And along that ride, about, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, I started a blog doing, camera reviews and giving back a little bit about technique. It actually started off with me writing on a what's the name of that site? Escapes me. Anyway, it was a forum that I used to write on a lot, and we would talk a lot about cameras and technique. And I was writing a lot about my, like my work challenges and stuff that I, had, and not only challenges like people are being dicks, like challenges was like, well, I had horrible lighting today, and I figured out a great way to solve the problem. And then I just wanted to share those things, and that's kind of how it evolved. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll do a blog and I'll share a little bit about how I use these cameras and how I use lighting and and I just felt like it was like a good forum to give back. And that's kind of how it started. Then I started doing a little bit more camera reviews and touching into other stuff. And next thing you know, I'm, doing it for Newsshooter in a lot larger scale and a lot bigger audience. And I don't know, it's been a great ride. I'm having a good time. And that ride's not over yet.
So was that like DVX user or creative cast?
Yes,
DVX
that's right. DVX user. I was a forum junkie for a while
that's
there.
Where Jared Land, he started that, and now he runs Red, which is crazy. I mean, it's pretty crazy how that happened. Oh, I was a forum junkie, for sure. Yeah,
it was definitely, before the blogs, took off, before everybody wanted to, have a blog and have a .com, and it was a lot of fun. I was on Creative Cow a lot as well, but mostly DVX user. I just found them to be, a good place to share and talk. It was fun.
Where were you hanging out, Ben, back in the day when you first started trolling the internet for information about technique and gear and stuff like that? where were you
DVX
going?
user as well. That was the one forum that I think everyone was on, because it then was obviously started off as a fairly narrow interest area, and just ballooned into all cameras, and then into the craft of things as well. So that was the one that I remember first really starting to look at as well. So we probably may have even chatted on there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah,
and I was and still am a DVX 100 owner. So that was the place to go. Adam Wilt, absolutely. Chris, actually, Adam lives nearby to me now. He's Portland based. I think I'll be seeing him at the Lens Summit at Kerna Camera a week from Saturday, May 4th is the Lens Summit. Yeah, Adam is great. Did a whole bunch of stuff with Art Adams, who is a San Francisco-based cinematographer. Really incredibly knowledgeable, primarily contributing in the past to Pro Video Coalition, which is another resource for information. Art's articles are killer. I mean, he just really nails it. And the thing that's great about Art Adams is he's not only great at his craft, he can break down. He pretends that he doesn't know about the numbers and everything, but he knows everything about the numbers. And he's now officially part of the ARRI team. So he now works for ARRI. And as far as I understand, he's actually going to be down in their Burbank office full-time come soon. But he is an employee, and I think he is an unbelievable addition to their camera team. And I think he's going to be able to give us tons and tons of knowledge that will not just be applicable to ARRI, but to other things. Great guy. So that's awesome. So Erik, I think that one of the things that I'm really interested in, and I want to find out a little bit more about, is that you have this history in photojournalism, you have this history in video journalism, in creating and making news, whatever. You had to make time and all of that stuff. But when
every day.
When you moved into the promo department, your pace is a little bit different. But what are your deliverables? Like, what is it that you're trying to do during the normal course of the year, and then what happens during sweeps? And can you tell me a little bit about what the things are that are expected of you, and what the different hats are that you're wearing?
Yeah. As far as my pace and how I work, that faster pace is something I really don't want to lose. First, there's so much that we have to get done in such a short amount of time. And I tend to want to try some things. So I don't want to, like, all right, we're going to do this one shot and it's going to go like this, because and then we move on. And I can't work like that. I kind of have to do a few takes like that. I want to try something else. I want to be a little experimental. I want to maybe, okay, we did a slider. I'm going to take it off. I'm going to do it handheld now. And everyone's looking at me like, what are we doing? Because I want to try something else that might be better, or just because, we like to try new things. Right. So yeah, the pace on my shoots, I try to keep them moving, just because I want to try other things.
But what is it that you're creating? So what is a promo? Can you explain to us what that is?
Oh yeah.
What is it that you're creating?
My product is the station, the news product. They are like, if I'm an ad agency, the station is Coke to me, or Dr. Pepper, or whatever, a cheeseburger. And have all their news product and the station's image to the public. So that's basically what we do in a series. Either it might be a campaign, it might be specific to our weather reporting, or our weather anchors, or our morning team, or our 11 p.m. team, or our afternoon PM team. There's so much going on. Our community events, like we cover, we partner with a lot of different companies for nonprofit things, and we create promos for them. It's just a massive amount of work. It's constant, but there are these cycles in news that you have as ratings periods. You all know about ratings periods, when all of a sudden all this new content is coming out, and they're all trying to get our eyeballs, right? And so we all also have to participate in that. We want you to watch our news, so we're making up topicals. We're putting together more image spots. Now, usually those things are done in advance. So like we're getting close to May, we've already produced some stuff that is going to start airing, for in May or whatever month, that the ratings period is going to hit in. So that's kind of what I do. I mean, when I'm not doing that, then I'm editing a lot. So I don't just shoot, I shoot and edit. And sometimes we have another editor that picks up work that might have a little more graphic ability than I do. If they really want to do something that's a little out of my wheelhouse, we hire folks that'll do that. That's not too often. I'd say lately it's probably been about, 30%, but I don't see that really happening. And next year or the rest of this year. So, but I do like that, because sometimes, adding a new trick, just like I like adding new tricks with maybe a gimbal or a slider or, moving the camera in an interesting way. I also like seeing how a graphic artist can take my shots and move them in a different way, make it interesting. So it all works hand in hand. Unfortunately, I wish I don't have a graphics design brain. I envy people that do. I think, After Effects and the way everything is comp and a comp and a comp and a comp and a comp, I can't think like that. It's weird, but I could do basic stuff. That takes a real gift to be able to do all of it. And so I do edit. I love editing. That's part of my news background. And I just love matching frames perfectly and getting just, nice match action shots and editing them and using sound and sound effects to deliver punctuation and, music, all that fun stuff. So I do enjoy editing a lot, and I do a lot of editing here. I probably edit, if I was going to start telling all my time, I probably edit more than I shoot, because there's a lot of promos I have to tag them with our own stuff, or put a new tail graphic on a national spot to make it local, tie-ins with other, affiliates, or affiliated shows like, Wheel of Fortune or something. I have to put doing a contest, and we're giving away tickets. So I have to put that together. Stuff like that. So it's very busy. I mean, that's for sure. We're very busy here. We're a small little team.
How big is your team?
We all work really well together. And that's another thing that I really enjoy. I know I don't like working in a bubble. I hate that. I don't want someone just all day long just hand me something, like paper. Here you go, finish this. Here, finish this. I like to be in there on the ground level with stuff. When we have a new spot or a new creative we want to come up with, they don't just, say, okay, we're shooting in 4 weeks and I don't even know about it until 3 days before. That doesn't happen here. We get involved, we get meetings, and we talk about creative, and we talk about what our goals are. Then I start thinking about, well, how can I make that visually more interesting? And I'll start, we just start brainstorming, woodshedding, whatever you want to call it. That's how really great products are created. Not one person telling everybody what to do, but a team of people getting together, and working together. It's like a band to me. It's like everybody has their instruments, and we all want to play together and make some kick-ass song. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I look at it when I'm at work and I'm working with the team, and we're all.
How big is your team? Not the people that you're shooting.
It's not that big. Yeah, I mean, it's like I have my main producer, and me and my boss, and we have some people in New York and LA, because we're owned and operated by NBC Universal, and they have their ideas of what how and what we produce. So we generally get we get our guidelines from them. We pitch stuff. Sometimes we crash and burn. It's the same stuff right on the other end. They hire you to do creative, and you give them 5 things, and they hate 4, but they almost like the 5th one. You know what I mean? This stuff. So you're always having that challenge just to get the creative. But yeah, we have a tiny team. I mean, I run my own audio. I do all the camera. If I need extras, I rent gear, or I always try to have a grip, because they will make, your life so much easier. If anybody that knows how to move around lights, set up lights, just get them in the right place, and then I can just kind of get them in the right, that is liberating beyond belief. And it's plus you're helping somebody else understand the business a little bit better. And that's
is that a temp hire for you when you bring in a grip
Yeah.
or a swing? Okay, so that's not somebody who's
Yeah.
on your team all the time, but you're going on
No.
location and you need somebody and you'll bring them in
Yeah.
for a day or 3 days or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Or we have interns that we have an internship program here. So we generally have 1 or 2 throughout the year. Sometimes they're not so interested in what I do. They're interested in maybe, graphic art or something completely different than what I do. When I get lucky sometimes and I have eager interns that really are into what I'm into and they want to get out on the sets and help me produce.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's about 50-50. Boy, it's a great year when I have somebody that just is all into it and they're asking questions. And I'm not someone you can never ask me too many questions. I'm an open book. There's no secrets in my world.
Yeah.
And I've had that guy. I think we all might have had that guy in your life or that gal in your life that won't share their knowledge. And that just, I think that might be, well, I have a story and I don't want to call anybody out, but when I was younger, it was like that. I actually had a question about doing a green screen and I was just a kid, really. I mean, I was just starting. I wanted to do a green screen shoot. And this guy, I called him, he was kind of like a mentor to me at one point. And I called him up and I asked him some questions. You know what his advice was? Hire me to do it. Drop the mic.
Drop the mic.
So so I learned like right then and there that was never going to be me. And if anybody ever called me and asked me a question on how to do it, I would tell you how I would do it. And, and maybe what I did wrong. So, but that's just me. You guys are like that too. I can tell.
No, we are. I'm getting some good things here, Ben. If you look here, first of all, the rock and roll band analogy people like, though the Post Color blog wants to know why can't it be a jazz band? Shiznuts. And it can be a jazz band, but I think the jazz band might be for documentary work. I don't know if broadcast is necessarily a rock and roll band. I think it could be like more Jimmy Buffett, maybe. But I don't know. You have to tell me.
Sometimes sometimes it's like Metallica, baby.
I'm sure it is, especially if you're at the helm. For sure. So basically, you're in a small to no crew situation as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in this environment. Ben.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, well, one was that Chris Cohen had asked, do you have time for personal projects, Erik? And that's something I was interested in. No, okay.
Not with Newsshooter.
Yeah, I would love to try to get involved in something. I don't have any kind of like anything burning inside of me. I mean, it seems like my personal projects are doing camera reviews and trying to is just so much. There's just not enough time in the day. I'm a full-time employee here. I have a
hold on.
Shooting.
We're losing you audio. Is everybody else losing Erik audio wise for a second?
Yeah,
just let us know.
It's just dropping out slightly. But
okay, so you have to just do a rewind on that 3/4 inch tape by about 30 seconds, and then start back again. All right.
Holy cow! Let me take my notes.
Transport control, and okay, you're back. Go for it.
I don't even know where I was. Let's see here.
Well, it's personal projects. I think we're talking about.
Personal projects. So yeah, I just, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of time in the day to do more. I wish I did actually. I'm a full-time employee here at the station. And, at night I go home and I make dinner and have a few hours here and there. I start shooting and writing and shooting and writing. I have a small studio at my home, which is very helpful for tabletop product shots. I'm trying. It's just hard. I'm married and my son is going to graduate from college this year. So it was, when he left to go to college, it was kind of like, it was like almost 4 years ago, which is hard to believe. It's gone by that quickly.
Crazy.
I had a little bit more free time. You're not having a teenager in the house. You want to spend time with your family and I want to spend time with my wife too. So yeah, I guess my personal projects are just, just trying to have some weekends and enjoy life, because before you know it, man, your kids are all grown up, and you're pounding the keyboards, and that's not good either. So,
well, we have the best. We have the best question for you, Eric. That's been. I think we're going to let Ben ask the question because he knows which one it is.
And I was wondering how we could edge this in somehow with Eric's background in news in San Diego, that it was going to crop up without a doubt. And if no one else had mentioned it, I sure as hell was going to. Because we've got a nice little segue from an experience we had in a lunch line. Do you remember?
Yes,
NAB.
yes, I do. Yes.
Okay, so I'll come back to that in a second. But the question is, I want to know if Eric was in San Diego during the Ron Burgundy era from Rimrock.
I lost a lot of what was being said right there, but all I heard was something about the Anchorman running away.
Yeah. So were you in news in San Diego during what would have been the Ron Burgundy era for newsman?
No.
I mean, you were.
No, that would be before me. Yeah. Way before I was
news
there.
Anchor. Yeah.
But I will tell you that Will Ferrell, I saw him at the station when he was going around in San Diego interviewing and talking and getting to know the anchors that were, that worked in this market before anybody even knew this movie. I mean, it was before, it was pre-production. And it was really cool just to kind of meet him. I was like, and he just walked right into the newsroom, and I was like, holy shit, that's Will Ferrell. What's he doing here? And little did we all know at that point that he was making the legendary Ron Burgundy movies. So, but it is based on an anchor man here in town.
It is. Do you know that?
Yeah, I mean,
is he still around?
No.
Okay.
but there's it's not like that. The guy didn't have a dog, and it was just that sort of the look and the swagger of the old. I'm gonna get myself in trouble here.
No, you're not. You're good.
Let's just say that there's no such thing as that guy. That guy doesn't exist. But there are little pieces of a couple of guys that are in his Will Ferrell's character.
One in particular, apparently.
We got to mention the when we were queuing to have lunch one day when we were at NAB. So for those of you that haven't been, the halls, I'm sure we've mentioned before, are divided up into central, which is kind of generally production stuff, and then south, which is generally post equipment on the whole. But there's also a lot of broadcast and a lot of broadcast news gear. So an awful lot of VR stuff. And clearly in one of those, in a virtual studio, one genius company had actually hired Ron Jeremy. So there was this guy wandering around queuing for his lunch.
Oh, Ron Burgundy. Yeah. Not Ron Jeremy. Not Ron Jeremy. Well, wait a minute. Now it's not 360 grad who's getting in trouble. It's look. Oh, you're blushing, Ben.
I don't know who Ron Jeremy is. I've never heard of him before. I don't know why it's in my subconscious.
No idea. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Let's continue with that story.
I'm too young to know who he is. Yeah.
Right. Sure you are.
Yeah.
It is a family show, Larry.
I think we probably. That was
I think that's the end of that story. I think we're done.
Yeah, you know where I was going with this. I did it when I told this story right through NAB. I always replaced Ron Burgundy with Ron Jeremy.
Well, I called Anchorman newsroom and something else while I was having a brain fart. So it's not bad, but
All right, you're gonna have to just bear with me 1 second because I've just realized I haven't plugged my laptop in and it's about to die. Give me 2 minutes.
Okay, good.
Not 2 minutes. 30 seconds.
All right. So Eric, we're just gonna. I think we're gonna get into. What do we got?
Anybody asking anything? Questions here? Fast.
Well, I got one more for you, and then he's erasing his browser history right now. That's amazing. So my laptop has died. So what's your favorite way to get good product shots? Because you talked about the fact that you have this like little insert studio in your house and you do some tabletop stuff. So what's just give us a quick summary of that.
Yeah, that's kind of always evolving, right? And I wish I would be able to just stick with one thing. I can't. I'm always trying something new. Got a new piece of kit I want to try to get it to work. IntelliTech has the light cloth LC160. They came out with a Shamira, partnered with them, and they came up with a really nice tabletop, kind of a skirted little China ball inside there, and it's fits perfectly on that really lightweight LC160 light. I'm going to do a review on it. I've been working on it. I keep using it so much. I mean, I got plenty of samples for sure. But that is just changed everything. Having a proper overhead tabletop light it just changes everything for you while you're shooting. I tried a lot of different techniques using 4x4 or just, taking any kind of diffusion bouncing off the card. Nothing looks like this. It's so soft and it wraps so nicely. Then I just take a couple of these, these boards and bounce light off of them for fill. And, sometimes I'll use the background. I'll just have it drape up and down, depending on how large the product is, or I'll use a colored LED light on a white seamless for the background. So really basic,
so do you think
that's just so beautiful.
Do you think that the aperture solution will give similar results?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's $99. So
ridiculous.
It's going to be
amazing.
If you have, if you have 120D, because you don't really need a ton of light up there. 300D would be overkill for that, but
120D too is going to be totally fine, or original 120D. But
no, that's going to be a wonderful piece, a kit. I can't believe it's $99. Like,
forget about it.
Just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Cheap. So I'm going to just go over a couple of quick things. Shiznuts is asking about the Aperture Special Meat. This came in while apparently somebody said that Ben was erasing his browser history.
And also that Dan Moore asking who's Ron Jeremy, and I assumed he was taking the piss, but actually Dan's only about 12, so he might not know who Ron Jeremy is.
Boy.
Dan, get on Google. Enjoy the rest of your evening. That'll be the last we hear from him for the evening. Honestly,
clear browser history. Okay, so we're back. We're back now that this channel has been delisted from YouTube permanently. All three of us were actually at the Aperture Special Meet, and there's nothing that is secret about that. What happens is they do the event, which I think is brilliant. They do it on a Tuesday night, and then on Wednesday, 2 days after the show has actually been, and they've shown some of their new stuff, they come out with all the stuff that they announced then. And primarily it was a smart bulb, which is a wireless, color tunable bulb, and these small $79 basically not replacements but new versions of their MX light, which will be RGB versions and wirelessly charged, and then their new app, and they're killing it. So we've already gone over that in last week's episode, but the lantern looks great. I think they're going for it, and they're going for it hard. Speaking of equipment, last week we had quite a few people asking about the Zcam and the Zcam company. And yes, I'm using the Mind Bleach right now, but I'll never be able to unsee what I just unsaw. So Eric, let's go over to San Diego, and what do you have over there that we didn't think you were? What?
It's so heavy. It takes two hands to hold it.
Oh my goodness! Oh, that looks like small rig stuff. What? Oh.
Yeah. So this is I wish this was the full frame model or the S35 6K, but it's the Zcam E2, and it's a micro four thirds little beast. See a little sensor in there.
How much bigger is the Super 35 going to be? Is it going to be about the same size? Or
it's a little bit longer,
but not much bigger in terms of.
Now the flange is going to come out a little bit. Whoops, the flange is going to come out a little bit. The body's a little bit longer, but they're trying to keep it compact. That's their thing. They want to keep it compact.
What battery is that on the back? Is that a Sony NPF L
it's just
series?
it's a Sony. Yeah, Sony.
Are you
Sony
going to
L.
be able
And
to
this is gonna
run the
last for
Super 30? Are you going to be able to run the Super 35 off of those batteries too?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Hot diggity
So,
dog.
here's something that's a little crazy. It's something I've learned, and this is really part of my review, but I think it's really interesting information. They use ASIC chips, not FPGA. Now, I know this is super geeky stuff, and I just learned about it myself. The reason why they are using this ASICs chip is because it doesn't generate heat. It is very low power consuming. The FPGA chip, which is what you'll see like in the Blackmagic cameras, they get hot. They need a big body. That's why the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K isn't a tiny camera, because it's using that technology. The advantages to one or the other is not just power, but it's actually why Blackmagic can update their hardware inside these cameras and reprogram that chip. Now, you can't do that with an ASICs chip. Once you design the architecture for the hardware, it's locked. You can't just change it. But it also is low in power consumption. So you can update features like that already existed. In other words, like say you improve the waveform monitor that you have in there. You can update that firmware and change it, but you can't add another, tool. It's already locked. It's only so much space in the room for furniture in the ASICs chip. So that's kind of an advantage to what Zcam is doing, and that's really kind of the heart and soul of your feature set, is like locked into that ASICs chip or the FPGA chip. They're getting away with amazing amount of tech in these cameras. This thing shoots ProRes HQ 4K up to 60. That's crazy good. Shoots H.264, H.265 all the way through the rest of the frame rates, over 200. In HD, you can go up to 120 in 4K. And I don't want to blow the whole review, but it's pretty impressive. It just does a good job.
How much is the Micro Four Thirds version of that?
It's like a little under $2,000. Yeah, it's a very affordable camera, and it's
user interface.
It's simple. The menu structure is basically 6 blocks. Okay. So it'll be like video, recording, audio, settings, image. It does have it's very small. This is like where you see the menu. Here, let me just turn it on. And it's very tiny, which is kind of a bummer because I have to wear glasses. Like right now, I can't see you guys if I'm not wearing my reading glasses. But this menu system is super tiny. So when you press it, I don't know if you can see that or not.
And will it push it to? Yeah, I can. Can you push it to an external monitor? The menu?
Yes, it has HDMI, no SDI.
Okay, so, but it'll push that. Is there an SDI on the back of the camera?
No SDI, and they're coming out with an adapter for SDI. I don't know how that's going to work. Kinson didn't quite explain that to me, so I'm not super sure, because most SDI HDMI need power, those converters. I'm not sure how he's doing that. Maybe it's got some mojo. This is 2.0, HDMI 2.0. So
okay, so you can do UHD,
but just not
4K.
Just not needing any external recorder is fantastic.
What's the monitor on there?
Well, this is a Portkeys BM5. This is also new. So I'm reviewing both of these at the same time.
Oh, I see the menu being pushed. Still teeny tiny up there, so it doesn't go full screen.
No, I can't get it full screen, but I can zoom in on it and see if I do this. So I think it did it zoom in on it? I don't think it did.
No, it zooms in on you.
Oh, it's like this part.
Your loveliness, yeah.
Yeah.
So okay.
And then I can go into the monitor a little bit. This is a great little monitor too, and it's a $499 monitor, and it's 2,000 nits.
Wow.
Pretty impressive. Built really well, all metal, all aluminum, has a fan in it, but you can turn it basically off when you put it in low. And then when you turn it on medium and high, it's like you're at an airport, but it's like a jet taking off. Okay. Yeah. But if you're not shooting sound, you know, you can use it if you're shooting sound, just turn it off. I love that option because like we know other monitors that are loud that don't have that option.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah, I mean, I think I'm digging this monitor a lot actually. And one feature that it has that we're starting to see even small HD doing, it has a remote control cable input on the bottom called camera control. And you can get different cables for the different kind of cameras that you want to control with the interface. And I will show you what that looks like. Let me turn this off so you're not bringing that in. So if you have, let me turn it like this.
Can you load LUTs? And is there scopes on that monitor?
Yep. Oh yeah, it's got everything.
Wait, so what is that? Yeah, is that the camera?
The buttons? Let me do this.
Wait, is it communicating to the Z cam?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It can, but what you have to use the right cable with the right camera. Yeah. There's a new firmware update that's coming out for the Zcam E2 that it's not available yet. They're both going to work together. It works with a lot of Canon, a lot of Panasonic. It's going to work with the C200, C300.
For touchscreen focus as well.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Now it'll work with the hold on, where is it at? See these right here? This part here will focus. That part will focus. Now it won't interact like a touch screen. No, you can't do that. I'm sorry. I don't want to mislead you on that.
Okay.
Because that would be crazy good.
So
it doesn't have that.
But I thought that's how the small HD implementation with ARRI is. That's touch-based control for ARRI, isn't it? Or
I don't know. Does ARRI have autofocus like that? I don't know.
I mean, so you have these buttons. Not for autofocus, but I just mean camera control. Like, are you?
Yeah, no, it's touch-based for camera control.
Oh, it is, but not for focus.
Those buttons are shortcuts. The ones on my right over here. Yeah, these are all like shortcuts that you create on the camera. So if you want peaking or if you want punch in, record, tally, what else?
So it is touch
ISO. Yeah. It's got all kinds of cool stuff on there. I mean, it's really, if you want to do some really quick stuff, I think it's just a really neat feature.
Is that the small rig for the monitor mount? Is that the friction-based small?
No, this thing is like made by Andy Sin. It's very cheap. Yeah. It's pretty good. I like it because it's tiny, but it does twist and it does pan up and down.
Okay.
But that's, the downside to this is,
go ahead.
Yeah, the downside is not really like true friction. It's just more kind of like tighten it down to where it doesn't really get super loose.
No,
another downside
is good friction mounts.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a $40 one. I'm not bashing it. I bought it, and I think it works great for what I need, and it's small and easy to use. And I don't have to worry, I can't grab it by the monitor because the way it locks down. I wish they had drilled some holes into the 1/4-20 screw-on mount to the monitor, because then I could crank it down super tight, similar to what they're doing on some of the small rig stuff, where it has little holes where you can put a wrench in there and crank it down, go Superman on it. Yeah. That would really be great. I actually was thinking about drilling a hole in it, but I don't know.
For $40, maybe you should.
I know. I'm thinking about doing it, but this is a really nice little powerhouse. I shot a promo with it last week. I did shot in here, green screen, ProRes HQ. I literally was 2 clicks and it was done.
Does it have AF? Is it decent autofocus on that camera? Or?
No, autofocus. No, I mean, it's not. It's okay. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get dual pixel or.
No, I understand.
It's
more like an Evo 1 or something like that, or even a Sony. Is it like a push, like a one-shot focus kind of feature? Or
there's a continuous focus on there. I haven't fully tested it. I wasn't expecting a whole lot of performance from it, so it's not a real big part of the review. It's just a mention. I'm not going to go deep diving on AF on this thing because it's really, I don't think it's designed for that. It's not going to be, there are ways away from doing that. I think effectively nowadays we expect a lot from autofocus. I mean, it either, even the X-T3, which I'm using right now, is come a long ways in firmware since it was, brought out. But we expect a lot from autofocus, and maybe they got room to work on that in there. But I don't know if that's really like one of the more important features of the camera, really. For
somebody's
Zcam.
asking about the color, though. Do you like the color science on it? The skin tones
I do
look
like
nice
the color.
overall?
I mean, I know it gets kicked around a lot, but it has that kind of that airy look to it. It's soft. As far as the color is not, it's not green, it's not magenta. It's kind of like it's sitting right there where you want it to be. Even their Rec 709 reminds me a lot of wide DR on Canon cameras. And I wasn't expecting that. It's usually you go into a Rec 709 color space on a camera and the blacks are going to get down in there and you're not going to have a whole lot of room.
Sure.
I was like, wow, I was very surprised with a very neutral, low contrast shot that actually it was a little bit lifted down there in the shadows, kind of gave me a little bit of room to play with. And I was like, hey, this is pretty sweet. It has a Z-Log 2 and it does have they call wide DR, which is WDR for them. It's kind of like that's where they're really extending the DR, and that's pretty flat. And they have flat and they have Z-Log 2. You got lots of options now. If you really, really want to push DR really hard, which I find that's a very debatable thing to do all the time. I don't like to do that. But if you want to, if you really need it, if you're in a really, really bad position here and you've got massive light in the back and it's a little bit shadowy in the front, and that's what you want to do. You want to push this camera as hard as you can. Those are the gamma profiles you would want to use. But I'm really impressed. Now, the other thing that they implemented correctly was, release a camera and also give you LUTs to neutralize your shots, to make them fall into the right place. And they even have a plug-in for Final Cut Pro and Premiere and DaVinci Resolve. And it works almost like a RAW style plugin. And it works really well. You put the LUT in there with the right, with the setting that you're looking for. You have lots of LUTs available. You just download them, and you can just color grade your shot through the plugin, and it really works well. So that's impressive. So it's not just you get a camera, shoot some stuff, and then figure out how to deal with it in post. They've kind of thought about the whole, A to Z sort of space with your camera, and I like that. And for a $2,000 camera. Right.
What's the recording media on it?
It uses CFast, and you can also use the USB-C out to a approved drive,
like an Angel Bird or whatever it's going to be. So it's interesting. I've heard that Zcam is going to have US distribution. It does sound like they're going at this in a more aperture-like way than maybe Kinfinity. They're really setting themselves up as kind of a brand that we could potentially have some future confidence in, especially if they get that distribution. It'll be interesting to see how their color science moves when we get into those super 35 millimeter and full frame sensors, because they will be different sensors. It's also interesting in terms of how they're dealing with things like, for instance, Arri, their Rec 709 is essentially wide DR, because what they're doing is they're giving you expanded gamma that is just natively part of the camera, whereas Canon says we'll give you wide dynamic range, which is what's giving you essentially a wider Rec 709 gamma before you move over to log. 360 Grad has a quick question, which is sort of related to this, but is really related to working with Cinema Raw Light, which at this time is really only in the C200. And do you first export Cinema Raw Light to C-Log 2 from Cinema Raw Development before grading in DaVinci, or directly import RAW into DaVinci? And the answer is that you can actually import it directly into Media Composer, into Final Cut Pro, into Premiere Pro, and into DaVinci. There are plugins for those applications. And essentially what it's doing is it's taking your Cinema Raw Light, which is a wider than Cinema Gamut and a wider than Canon Log 2. It's essentially the same as Canon Log 2 in terms of dynamic range. And what it's doing in your timeline is it is showing you Canon Log 2 and Cinema Gamut. It's still the native RAW that you are working with in your timeline in those different applications, but it has to convert it to a video signal. And this is where a lot of people get confused. RAW is zeros and ones. It is an electrical signal that's made up of zeros and ones. And in order for us as people to see what that is, it has to get turned into a video signal at a certain point in time. Well, on a Canon camera, at least the way that they're built right now with Cinema EOS cameras, the largest gamut that you can get is cinema gamut in a video signal. And the largest amount of dynamic range that you can get out of a particular sensor is Canon Log 2. It shows you those extra 2 stops of uglies down in the shadows, which is why Canon Log 3 was created, by the way, was to hide those ugly 2 stops down in the shadows. So you're getting 13 instead of 15, but you're not seeing them when you're working with your camera system. So the answer is very simply, you don't have to do a conversion in Cinema Raw development. It will do that for you with the plugin. You can still work with the native, and then you're going to bake that in the oven when you render or when you export into a video signal. You'll be working in the timeline in Canon Log 2 and Cinema Gamut unless you change it, which you can, and you can do that in Cinema Raw development too as well. So you could easily change that to Canon Log 3 if you wanted to, or to a different gamma. But at a certain point, you are going to then target either Rec 709, P3, or 2020. When you do that, then of course you are really working with something that is now no longer really in log. It is, you're adjusting it, but at some point you're usually going to bake it in the oven into Rec 709 anyway. That's a long answer, but there you go. That's what I'm giving you.
And Resolve handles it really, really well. Really well.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah.
Because you have a C200, and we all 3 of us actually shoot with the C200. So we all have one, and there you go.
I have a question for you guys. This is kind of this is gonna be a barn burner, because I think a lot of us, here's the question. Everybody always asks, what's the DR of that camera? What's the dynamic range? How many stops does that thing have? I'm kind of finding that in the last 2 years, I don't even know if that question even matters anymore.
No.
These cameras are so good, right? Don't you think? I mean, and then when we edit it, all that, it's what maybe be called usable dynamic range is just like we just get rid of it because it doesn't look natural.
No. And you know what it's become? It's become slightly like with the stills world, in that sort of chasing megapixels. It's a little bit, I feel it's a little like that. It becomes slightly beyond a certain point, it becomes a marketing thing. And as Jem was saying, that with the C-Log, that the going to the 3 over the 2 when it's then sort of clipping shadow detail a bit is actually far more usable. We can do, it's a lot less work to get that looking good. So we're actually taking 2 out because that's fitting into our workflow better. And the reason I went for that camera was the AF, because I work on my own a huge amount. This thing I'm doing next week, which I've done, we've talked about these kind of jobs before, where I'm working on my own because I can't take anyone with me to oil rigs, and I'm shooting interviews. But I can stand to the side of the camera and forget about it because it works great. And it's robust. So those things become as important as, or more important to me than the dynamic range of it. But
yeah. And I mean, I think that all 3 of us would agree that one thing that Canon excels in, even though you have to learn every sensor in every camera system, is when you're shooting 8-bit on a Canon camera, for some reason, they're the only company that has figured out the secret sauce to say, hey, I can push and pull this image quite a bit. And I don't know what it is about that. It has been that way since the original C100 Mark I, which is recording at 35 megabits per second. And you were getting a heck of a lot more out of that camera than you probably should do at 8-bit 420. It doesn't mean that all of us want them to put 10-bit 422 into the camera to record to the SD cards. Cinema Raw Lite is not a day in and day out workflow for me. It's not the right codec for me to be using every single day. But we're really getting to the point now where our monitors can't show us those 13 to 15 stops of dynamic range anyway. if it's in the recorded image and we can move our image to where we can see those stops where we want them to be in our final, at best 9 or 10 stops of dynamic range, then we're so good right now.
Yeah.
Nobody's losing right now at all. And the fact that you can go out and buy an XT30 and you can record at 10-bit 422 into a camera that costs $900, it just means that, you know what? Nobody has an effing excuse anymore if you want to learn what this is all about. You have a tool that's available to you that costs less than $1,000 US that is capable of capturing a better dynamic range, arguably, than film cameras of the past. The film cameras had better latitude. You could push and pull the image more, but there's a difference between dynamic range and latitude. And it's one of the things that gravitates people to Arri cameras, is because they have both the dynamic range and the latitude. You can severely underexpose an Arri camera and you can bring that image up if you want to. And you can't do that with every digital cinema camera and the sensors that are inside of them. And it is one of the things that makes it special. And I think that people need to understand there is a distinct difference between total dynamic range of what can be captured from a camera and how much you can actually push and pull that image in more traditional film terms, which to me is what I define as the latitude of whatever that stock is. And every system is different.
And it's also considering as to what are you shooting that you're needing 14, 15 stops for, which is, I mean, I'm not saying it's not great to have, it is, but also, you know, if you're lighting stuff, you know, if you're lighting stuff and you're still needing that kind of latitude, that's weird. And if you're doing, you know, if you're outside, you're doing landscapey stuff, there's ways that you can get around that. I learned, you know, my background stills, and I learned on shooting transparencies on stills. There's no latitude. That's like 4 or 5 stops, and you've got to pull everything down. So you learn to use filtering, you learn to use ND grads or whatever it is to pull that back into that really small range. And to me, that it's never been the major consideration in choosing a camera platform.
Yeah, I really think that that's all great stuff right there. And you know, the thing that I look for a lot now, because it matters to me, I just get tired of fighting it. It's kind of color science. You know, that's really kind of what sells me on a camera a lot. I like it to look good right out of the camera. I want, even if it's flat and I see it and I don't see weird green skin or goofy looking magenta stuff, blotchy skin. I shoot people 99.9% of the time. That's it. People, faces. I want those faces to be right. You know, I want good skin tone. It's super important to me. And, you know, I think that's, you know, that's, I don't want to bag on certain companies, but some are getting better. Others have been there for a long time. You know, they're good.
I've just kind of come back to Canon after a few years in Sony, entirely for that reason, really, is because even with stills, and I still do a bit of stills work commercially, and just I could get the Sony stuff looking good. It just took an awful lot more effort. It wasn't like the data wasn't there. It was just that it just took an awful lot to get it into that space. Whereas, you know, I was after NAB, I did a road trip for 4 or 5 days, and I was down on a bit of the old Route 66 and shooting some of that old Americana in the old motels and things down there. And the images that come out of that camera, and this was on the DSLR, straight out of the camera, it's great. You look at it straight away and this is great. Whereas with the Sony, it was like, right, there is an image in there, but I'm going to have to pull it out. And it's a huge difference. And obviously it's the same for the moving image on those as well. So it's a big thing.
Well, with that, and with Shiznut saying it's just a tool, we can bring back the Ron Jeremy reference, and I think we can wrap up this episode of Camera and Flask. What? Go ahead.
I noticed that we haven't seen Dan since the Ron Jeremy conversation when he was off Googling him.
Oh, that's true. No, he's there. No, there is that. Very quickly, he heard his name and he was like, "I better make sure people know I'm here." Dan, we're going to have to wait till next week to talk about some more audio stuff. I'd like to thank our good friend and long overdue guest co-host, and we hope you'll come back again, Erik, to Cameron Flask. Next time with the Jack and Coke in your hand, for sure. And go find that guy who is the real Ron Burgundy inside of. Go have a drink. One day I'd like you to do Cameron Flask with him at a steakhouse somewhere in San Diego.
Yeah, that would be good. And the other thing I was going to say is, Erik, if you're coming to Europe to do any of the shows again, because I know you've been over to do did you come to do the BVE show?
Yeah, I did. I did. I wish I did that again. I was trying to pitch to go to London again, and they chose not to do it this year. I do go IBC is about every year. That's about
good.
So IBC is a good one, and I'm going to try and get there this year. And have you ever been to Wine and Fucking? Sorry.
That's what he said. He said fucking. He said fucking.
I did say fuck. Wine and Fucking is an amazing. It was my northern vernacular that makes it sound like you rather than an O. It's this.
You bring Erik Naso on the show, and everything goes to pot. I mean.
It's this amazing, but where they have this kind of the Dutch version of gin, which is like this. I can't remember what it's called. Genevieve. It's amazing. So we'll go and have a night out there. So in Amsterdam.
That sounds wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, but honestly, everyone's now kind of this demonetized. Yeah, sorry, Jen.
I like that's a great comment. Jennifer, there goes monetization.
Oh,
so long monetization.
that went surely with the Ron Jeremy stuff. I know. And honestly, YouTube people, Google it. That's the name of this bar in Amsterdam. That's how it's pronounced.
Look at Jem.
Okay.
Look at you.
I love you guys. Love everybody who comes to the show every week. No, Baron. I'm out of here now. So somebody else post. I need everybody else to post something really quickly, so that's not the last post in the chat. Really quickly, everybody type something. It could just be characters and hit return. Everybody who's on the chat right now, just type something that's normal, like playgrounds and lemonade and things like that. Oh my God, it's amazing. Okay.
Well, hey guys, if I could just say a closer, I really thank you for having me. You guys are wonderful people. I love the show, and I would love to come back at any time. You let me know, and I would love to be a part of it again.
Erik, we'd love to have you back anytime.
I'm reading the thing. Oh my God.
No, like Jem, honestly, if you Google that, that's what the thing's called. It's a bar with.
It's called the Rusty Trombone.
No.
Okay, we're leaving right now. We're out, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. My son has a track meet. I'm going to go to that and look at that AF system with version 3 firmware. We'll figure that one out later on. Next week, Caleb Pike will be back. Gentlemen, love you, and thank you very much for being on the show, Erik. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good night.